The Miami Dolphins have a lot of holes on their defense ahead of this free agency. I'm Connor from the Dolphins. I'm going to be breaking down the top free agent defensive targets for the Miami Dolphins. Starting off in the trenches, I'm going to start with the interior defensive line position. With Christian Wilkins being a pending free agent, the Dolphins have a hole at defensive tackle to pair up with Zach Sealer. First option to obviously be bringing Christian Wilkins back.
Let's go!
Now, when I first saw the news that the Dolphins weren't franchise tagging Christian Wilkins, I honestly thought he was all but gone. But since then, reports have come out that the Dolphins are going to remain in contact with Wilkins and actually are going to be pretty aggressive in keeping him as a Miami Dolphin. So my guess is that Christian Wilkins thinks his market's going to be bigger than the Dolphins think, so they're going to let him test the market. And unless he gets an outrageous offer, the Dolphins are going to look to keep him a Miami Dolphin. PFF does project his contract as a 4-year, $100 million contract, so which is $25 a year on average. So it's a big contract if he gets that much money. So should be interesting to see if the Dolphins can keep Christian Wilkins a Dolphin. I really hope so. However, if the Dolphins can't keep Christian Wilkins in aqua and orange, some potential options as a rebound to really pair up with Zach Sealer. I really think you can't replace Christian Wilkins with one player, especially with the amount of snaps he plays. So in doing so, I think the Dolphins should look to pursue someone who can beat Christian Wilkins against the run and then find someone who can be pretty productive as a pass rusher. And starting with the run stuffing defensive tackle, the Dolphins should look to get A'Shawn Robinson, who's a known run stuffer. Previously on the Giants, my one friend's a diehard Giants fan. He's like, yeah, very good against the run, as well as everything I've read about him. His projected contract is a 2-year, $12 million deal, so $6 million on average, which is a quarter of Christian Wilkins. Once again, I'm all for keeping Christian Wilkins, but if not, you got to piece together some good players, and being able to stop the run is the main goal of a defensive lineman. So A'Shawn Robinson would be able to help stop the run, and then you need to look someone to pair with that to put on second and third passing downs to help get some pass rush productivity. The first guy that came to mind that I saw was a free agent was Adam Butler. Obviously, he was a Dolphin before, and I thought he was a pretty good pass rushing defensive lineman. He's projected a 1-year, $3.38 million deal, so not very expensive. And for someone that can provide some pass rush ability, I really don't mind that contract. And obviously, once again, Wilkins' hole, if he's gone, isn't going to be filled by one guy. You got to find someone who's going to stop the run, find someone who's going to be able to do some pass rushing, whether that's in free agency or the draft. But these are some names I've thrown out. And then the last guy, Javon Kinlaw, 1-year, $5.5 million deal, which is what he's projected. Obviously, he's still has a lot of talent. Obviously, drafted in the first round, 13th overall, but hasn't lived up to that first round talent. But he's got that talent, so maybe the Dolphins could look to extract that from him. On to the next position of need for the Miami Dolphins, and that is the edge position. With Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips both still coming back from injury, the Dolphins are going to need to add depth as well as people to potentially start the season as our starting edge rushers as we wait for those guys to fully heal up. Now, on the top of the list of potential edge rushers to see the Dolphins bring in would to be bring back Andrew Van Ginkel. Obviously a tremendous Dolphin legend, and would love to see him brought back, as we love Gink. He's a tremendous player, and I would love to see him remain a Miami Dolphin. He's projected a 2-year, $13 million deal, which is 6.5 on average, and I'd be willing to pay that kind of money for the Gangster. Luckily for the Dolphins, there's a ton of really good edge rushers hitting the open market, so they're going to be able to get some of these guys for a budget and hopefully be able to add depth as well as potential rotation pieces. One of those guys being AJ Epinesa, who's projected a 3-year, $20 million deal, which is 6.75 on average. We saw him year in, year out against Buffalo. He's a pretty solid edge rusher. Obviously not someone who's going to take the game over, but has a very good skill set and could be a benefit to the Miami Dolphins. Next potential guy is Derek Barnett, formerly of the Eagles. I think ended up with the Texans and finished the season very strong. He's projected a 1-year, $5 million deal. Once again, pretty cheap for a solid edge rusher that can really help fill in until Phillips and Chubb are back. Another potential guy, former Miami Dolphin, like a lot of some of these people on this list, Kyle Van Noy, who has experience with our defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver, last year in Baltimore, is projected a 1-year, $3.33 million deal. Once again, not very expensive. On the higher end, if you want to pursue someone else that was with Coach Weaver in Baltimore, you have Jadeveon Clowney, who's projected a 1-year, $9 million deal. Obviously expensive, but maybe that market's a little lower than we actually expect. Who knows how the markets actually shake up. Another potential target for the Miami Dolphins at the edge position would be Marcus Davenport, who made a name for himself in New Orleans, signed with Minnesota, and had a kind of down year, hence the reason his projected contract, 1-year, $5 million deal. But once again, maybe he looks to bounce back in Miami. He's this guy that I remember. I'm pretty sure he's good against the run, but a cheap option for the Dolphins to add depth. Second to last player here, Anthony Jennings, former New England Patriot, really known for his run-stopping ability if the Dolphins look to pursue that. It's kind of hard to project what the Dolphins are looking for at the edge position with Anthony Weaver coming in. He said he wants to be multiple, which means what kind of players is he looking for? I don't know. Is he looking for a guy who can stand up? Is he wanting a 5-tech? It's hard to know exactly what he's looking for, so that's kind of why this list is very long. Kind of just listed some good, cheap veteran options. But Anthony was good against the run, projected a 2-year, $10 million deal, so not overly expensive. And then the last guy on this list was just recently released. It's Shaq Barrett. I don't know what his market's going to look like. I'd figure it'd be kind of pricey, but if not, why not keep him in Florida? He's a good pass rusher, obviously Super Bowl with the Bucs. Now, finally, on to the next position of free agent targets for the Miami Dolphins, and that's going to be at inside linebacker, with the Dolphins just recently releasing Jerome Baker. It's obviously a hole, but it was mentioned that Jerome Baker could be brought back on a new deal. The Dolphins and him couldn't agree on one before him being released, but maybe he tests the open market and realizes it's not that hot, and he comes back to the Miami Dolphins. So he is on the top of the list, but some potential other players for the Dolphins to target. Eric Kendricks, just coming from the Los Angeles Chargers. He's slowing down. He's obviously one of the best linebackers in all football, but he's still a good player that the Dolphins could sign for cheap. Next potential option is Azeez Al-Shaair from the 49ers, who have a tremendous linebacker room, and Azeez was their third backer who did a very good job. He's a very good athletic ball of clay that was from Tennessee and then went to San Fran and could look to make his way into South Florida. Following Mike McDaniel and all of the former 49ers, he's projected a 3-year, $20 million deal, which is a little under $7 million deal on average. To end the inside linebacker list, I have two very good athletes, Devin White being one of them, projected a 1-year, $7 million deal. Obviously, Devin White, a first round pick, a very good player, won a Super Bowl with the Bucs. He's a phenomenal inside backer who's very athletic, but he's fallen off a little bit. I read recently that one of his biggest is he really bites hard on the play action game, so probably why his market isn't as big as you would have once anticipated, but maybe he looks to kind of revive his career in South Florida. It's not an expensive contract, and if he fits the team, then why not? And then the last guy on this list is Willie Gay from the Chiefs, an athletic freak. I remember him. I can't believe he's already a free agent, but he is. He's projected a 1-year deal. Once again, a very athletic linebacker that Dolphins could look to add and pair him up with Bong. Now on to the next position, which is the cornerback position, with the Dolphins releasing Xavier Howard. Once again, Chris Greer mentioned that they're leaving the door open to bring him back, so look to potentially see Xavier Howard brought back, but if not, some other potential names, Steven Nelson. He's been around the league forever now, and he's consistently a good player. I think last year with the Texans, he projected a 2-year, $14.5 million deal, and I really expect Dolphins to bring in some kind of veteran to compete with Cam Smith, Cater Cohen, Ethan Bonner as a second/third corner. So Steven Nelson would be a great place to start. Next option is Adoree Jackson. He's projected a 1-year, $6 million deal. Adoree Jackson's got tremendous potential and upside. He's just struggled to stay on the field, but from what I read, when he's on the field, he's been good. He's a very good ball hawking kind of cornerback, and for that kind of price, why not him to potentially compete? And then the last guy on this list, Sean Murphy-Bunting, another guy from that Bucs Super Bowl team. All of them I feel like have kind of fallen off and are looking to bounce back a little bit. Struggled with the Titans. He's for 1-year, $4 million deal, which if he's getting signed for that cheap, why not? Once again, a good option for the Dolphins, who look to get younger in the secondary. And like I said, I really like some of the pieces we have with Ramsey, Bonner, Cam Smith, Kohu, but you need to bring someone in to help compete and hopefully get a starting job, if not be solid depth piece. And as I previously mentioned in my offensive video, the Dolphins have a lot of needs clearly, but a lot of these can be addressed for very cheap and also in the draft. So you're talking about $4 to $6 million deals for quality free agent players that can be plug and play starters. Like, we don't need star power really much more on this team, especially if we bring Christian Wilkins back. We need to get really good pieces and solid additions to help solidify this roster. And it can be done at these positions because we have a lot of those expensive positions locked up. We have a lockdown corner. We have 2 really good edge players. I would love to see us bring Wilkins back, but if not, Zach Sealer is a very lineman. Like, the Dolphins aren't desperate for star players. We really just need really good, solid players to help fill in the roster, and that can be done for pretty cheap at these positions because the Dolphins have done good at signing premium positions. But the last position of need for the Miami Dolphins is the safety position, with both Deshaun Elliott and Brandon Jones being free agents. The Dolphins could obviously look to bring both of them back. It wouldn't be overly expensive, probably $2 to $4 million deals for both of them. Brandon Jones probably being a lot cheaper than that. So I wouldn't mind if the Dolphins run it back at the safety position, but if they look elsewhere, some options, starting with Geno Stone with Coach Anthony Weaver in Baltimore, is projected a 2-year, $13 million deal, so 6.5 on average. He snagged a bunch of interceptions last year. I know a lot of people who were saying like ball was just falling in his hands, kind of getting lucky, but obviously has familiarity probably with the kind of team that Coach Weaver's going to want to be a place to start as a potential target. Next up would be Jordan Fuller. Reunite him with Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. He's projected a 2-year, $9.25 million deal, which is a little under $5 million on average. It's a pretty good deal for a very good safety who's a pretty good rangy center fielder. Once again, it's hard to know exactly what Weaver's looking for at every position, but I'm guessing he wants a lot of versatility within his players. Jordan Fuller's a good athlete, and obviously you could reunite him with Jalen Ramsey. Now, the next target for the safety position for the Miami Dolphins would be Jeremy Chin, formerly of the Carolina Panthers. I remember him coming out of college. He was super athletic, rangy kind of safety. Hadn't found his footing in the NFL yet. I feel like he got moved around a lot between kind of box safety. So, but overall, that versatility will help him, especially in the Dolphins scheme, which I'm versatility. And he's a very good athlete. So maybe looking for someone Coach Anthony Weaver can coach up and really get the most out of him. Despite not having a lot of success in his career, he is a very good athlete who potentially could find his way in Miami. And then the last guy at the safety position, once again, really hard to project what kind of safeties the Dolphins are looking for. But if they're looking for a good box safety, Julian Blackmon from the Colts is up, and he's projected a 2-year, $12 million deal, so obviously 6 on average. And he's a good box safety, good physicality, good at making tackles. So if that's the kind of safety the Dolphins are looking for, not overly expensive, but I honestly wouldn't hate the Dolphins to back the safety position. But comment your thoughts down below. Which of these free agents you want to see the Dolphins sign? Appreciate you guys for watching. Like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, fins up.